Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about topic 3.7, selective incorporation. In this lesson, you're going to learn about how the 14th Amendment made it possible for the Supreme Court to force states to protect liberties granted by the federal government. So, federalism. We talked about that in Unit 1, but remember, federalism is the relationship between the states and the federal government. Who has more power? In 1833, the Supreme Court decided that the Bill of Rights only applied to the federal government. States were free to enforce laws that restricted those rights. So, why would the Supreme Court say that? What was going on in 1833? Oh, that's right. This was before the Civil War. And before the Civil War, states' rights were everything. Now, remember, states' rights were often about restricting freedoms. This is also before the 14th Amendment, and the 14th Amendment is what the Supreme Court now uses to make sure that states have to protect those same federal individual protections. 14th Amendment comes along and it says this: no state, see that? It says state, not the federal government, state. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That last bit there is called the Due Process Clause. Nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That's called the Equal Protection Clause. Those two clauses, the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause, are what the Supreme Court has used to incorporate the Bill of Rights to the states. Let's look at a case where that actually happened. The first case where this happened, and that is Gitlow versus New York. This is not a required case, but it's one that's kind of interesting to know. So in 1923, Gitlow is a socialist after World War I, and this is during the Red Scare, where everybody was afraid of communism because Russia had just been overthrown. Gitlow is arrested in New York under the Espionage Act and the New York Criminal Anarchy Law for trying to overthrow the government by dispersing his left-wing manifesto. Seems like that wouldn't be something that they could do. Oh, but it was, because he was actually saying that we should overthrow the government. So the court said, yes, the law is upheld, but because of the 14th Amendment, the state had to protect Gitlow's right to free speech. Gitlow's conviction was upheld because he was trying to overthrow the government, but in cases where the speech is protected, it must be also protected by the state, not just the federal government. So Gitlow still goes to jail, but the states now have to protect individual freedoms listed in the Bill of Rights. So what does this mean? Selective incorporation is the idea that every level of government, not just federal, must protect the rights enshrined in the Bill of Rights. But it is selective. The court chooses which rights should be protected. At this point, there has not been a total or full incorporation of the Bill of Rights. At this point, it's been done incrementally. To date, the court has not adopted the principle of total incorporation, only those rights specifically granted by the court. And we talked in topic 3.1 about specific amendments that have not yet been protected by the court, like the 3rd, 7th, and parts of the 8th. Many of the cases we've already discussed are considered landmark cases specifically because they incorporate parts of the Bill of Rights to the states. This includes Wisconsin versus Yoder, which we've already discussed, helped to incorporate freedom of religion to the states. We're going to talk about Gideon versus Wainwright, which helped to incorporate part of the 6th Amendment to the states. And right now we're going to talk about McDonald versus Chicago, which helped to incorporate the 2nd Amendment to the states. This case revolved around the process by which one became registered for a gun in Chicago. And this was an issue because Chicago at the time was a very violent city. The murder rate in Chicago was increasing almost on a daily basis. But when the case got to the Supreme Court, when McDonald got his case all the way up to the Supreme Court said, you know what, we just did that case, Heller versus DC. So if DC has to protect the individual freedom to a gun, why not the states too? So the thing that you need to remember, so first, precedent was set by DC versus Heller. And so the court was very easily able, through stare decisis and precedent, to say, yes, McDonald versus Chicago should go the same way as DC versus Heller. And second, selective incorporation in McDonald versus Chicago is applied to the Second Amendment. I've learned how the 14th Amendment made it possible for the Supreme Court to force states to protect liberties granted by the federal government. If there's anything you missed, please go back now and rewatch that part of the video. Then, go ahead and answer the summarizing question in your notes so that you can get a stamp the next time we're in class. All right, guys, we'll see you again next time. Bye.